Hello, and welcome to the Narrowing Path, Walking the Spiritual Walk. My name is Steve Van Eiderstein. Thank y'all for joining me today for today's reading of James Allen's Daily Meditations. This will be for September 11th, pretty significant day in world history, at least for U.S. history, and which eventually impacted the entire world. Um, so I'm looking forward to it. Yesterday's again. I like the meditation because it gives me things to kind of think about, and that an opening line that by submitting to a bad habit one forfeits the right to rule over himself. I've been thinking about that one a lot, and how often I allow myself to be ruled over because I just choose to indulge in a bad habit. Could be something very simple, but it really got me thinking about a lot of things, which is why I do this. So here we go. This will be fresh to you and fresh to me. Meaning this will be the first time that I hear it or read today's reading right here on this podcast with you. So you'll get my genuine response, reactions, observations, and what I relate to about the reading. So here we go. This is September 11th reading from James Allen's Daily Meditations. Perfection should be aimed at even the smallest task. Perfection should be aimed at even in the smallest task. Excuse me. By not dividing the mind, but giving the whole attention to each separate task as it presents itself, singleness of purpose and intense concentration of the mind are gradually gained. Two mental powers which give weight and worth of character and bring repose and joy to their possessor. Doing vigorously and at once whatever has to be done is equally important. Idleness and a strong will cannot go together, and procrastination is a total barrier to the acquisition of purposeful action. Nothing should be put off until another time, not even for a few minutes. That which ought to be done now should be done now. This seems a little thing, but it is of far reaching importance. It leads to strength, success, and peace. Live according to principle and not according to passion. Like it. Oh man, a lot of good practices in this one, a lot of good principles to live by on this one. Really, really enjoy it. So, the opening line is going to make some people uncomfortable. There's a lot of people that like to slide by with good enough. And obviously, well, I'm going to read it again. Perfection should be aimed at even in the smallest task. Now, the phrasing of this is very important because there's a lot of people, oh, perfect's not possible, blah, blah, blah. And there's some truth to that, right? Especially when you use it to create a vat of self-pity to wallow in, right? Perfection is the aiming towards perfection is a excuse for people to feel bad about themselves, and a manifestation of insecurity a lot of times. So this can be seen or taken rather poorly. I could see. I was a perfectionist, as they say at one point, because I demanded perfection of myself at all times and all ways, which is unachievable. But listen carefully to what he says here. He says perfection should be aimed at, even in the smallest task. Perfection and perfect execution and achievement should always be the aim. Never aim for half-assed. Excuse my language. Never aim for good enough. Aim to do this task to your fullest and utmost capability. Perfection. And that means appropriate effort. That means appropriate time. That means appropriate I guess those two things primarily. Energy. That's the other one. Well, effort and energy are close, but so perfection should be aimed at. Like we should always be trying to do something perfectly. But we accept it when it's not because we are human and we have human failings, but it is also a process of purification. We should always be striving for perfection and learning from the mistakes, but not using the mistakes or not using the shortcomings of or for a club to beat ourselves with. They're intended to be learning experiences. So I agree with this. Perfection should always be aimed at. Don't settle for it. Don't settle for a lesser goal in all areas. And appreciate the process and the progress. All right, now for the main body of this. By not dividing the mind, but giving the whole attention to each separate task as it presents itself, singleness of purpose and intense concentration of mind are gradually gained. Wow. A lot of people have trouble concentrating. A lot of people have problems focusing, right? A lot of people are trying to multitask 17 different things and wonder why nothing gets accomplished. There's a medical diagnosis, as people claim, and there's some substantial research about it too. But for many, by just giving your entire attention to one thing as each task presents itself, not trying to juggle 7 things at one time, but these singleness of purpose and intense concentration of mind are gradually gained. Give our whole attention to each separate task as it presents itself, right? Complete the task in front of you, complete the task you're engaged in, and then move on to the next. Don't entertain and explore the next one until you've got the first one done, right? Because then don't allocate any of your mind to it. Do what you're doing. It's that simple, which I know can be hard for some, but this is a practice. Mindfulness is a practice. And it's been something I've struggled with, but upon uh, discipline and determination and effort, I'm able to get a much better grasp on things. That's for sure. And he finishes that sentence with two mental powers which give weight and worth of character, bring repose and joy to their possessor. Who wouldn't want that? Singleness of purpose and intense concentration are two mental powers which give weight and worth of character. These are things that develop your character and your behaviors and your thinking, and bring repose and joy to their possessor. I'm going to look up repose just to make sure we're on the same page here. Tranquility, state of rest. It's pretty important. Pretty widely sought after state of being, repose, and also joy to their possessor. Those with intense concentration of mind and singleness of purpose. Dangerous combination right there. Potent, maybe is a better way to say it. Done vigorously and at once, whatever has to be done is equally important. Or, excuse me, doing vigorously and at once, whatever has to be done is equally important. So don't delay what you have to do. Do what needs to be done. As much as I like to delay certain aspects of my life, address it completely. Finish it. Do these things. It's important. And do them promptly. Not tomorrow, not when you feel like it, not when you feel inspired to handle it. That's not what life is about. Walking around in a constant state of inspiration, relying on your emotional state to drive your actions, is a very unhealthy way of living and unstable and unreliable way of living. He goes on to say, idleness and a strong will cannot go together, and procrastination is a total barrier to the acquisition of purposeful action. I mean, said a little fancy there, but procrastination is a total barrier to the acquisition of purposeful actions. So do the things as they come up. And if you have a strong will, you won't be able to wait. And just so you know, waiting prevents you from the acquisition of purposeful action. So doing anything worth your time. That's kind of what it's saying here. When you got things you know you should be doing and you're not doing them, it's not the purposeful action you need to be taking. The actions you're taking are actually delaying and not how to say this. They're actually harming you because you're not taking care of what you need to take care of. These things we like to justify in our own heads. Well, this is a good thing to be doing, or this is positive. This is good for my health. But if you're only using it to delay doing what you know needs to be done, that's all distraction and unhealthy. A lot of a lot of people point to this stuff and say, "But I'm doing good here," but you know you're doing bad there, and you're purposefully and intentionally avoiding doing that work. And I'm talking to myself right now here too, because there's some things I don't do perfectly. I just don't. At the end of the day, and this is a call to action for myself in a lot of ways and very specific areas of my life that I need to address. That I've been addressing slowly when I feel like it, when things feel right to do. I have been a man of emotional reliance before instead of God and spiritual reliance, and I'm still weeding it out. And just to be accountable and honest on this podcast, um, I've still got work to do. So I guess this is me taking a look at myself right here with you guys. So it's always fun that way, right? He says nothing should be put off until another time, not even a few minutes. So do promptly, immediately, and with complete attention and singleness of mind to that thing while you're doing it. Just get it done. You will find relief in that. You really will. I do. I do. When I finally face something that I've built up to in my head to be this monster of a situation, it always comes back to me as, hey, you got it done. Look at you. And it only took a fraction of the time. Always only takes a fraction of the time. That which ought to be done now should be done now. Such a simple statement, but such a difficult principle. Sometimes I'm writing that one down just because I know I need to. That which ought to be done now should be done now. So, this one's a great one for me to read today. I know if I don't write this down, my brain will. My brain has a bad habit sometimes. When I read something relevant to my situation and circumstance, it tends to forget it much quicker. I could probably repeat the rest of this meditation to you, except for that one line. It's the reality of it. When I'm thinking about something or a prayer, maybe, or a saying or a common phrase, and I forget in a specific part of it, it's usually my mind trying to block out something I need to pay attention to. So it's an interesting observation I've made about myself. I think it's more common than just me, of course, but when you realize that then it happens and you figure out what the word or the statement, suddenly you're like, well, means I probably got to take a look at it. So, that which ought to be done now should be done now. Simple, straightforward, honest, and the reality of everything. So, this seems a little thing, but it is of far reaching importance. It is of far reaching importance. It's true because we make mountains of tasks for us to do that if we just handled them promptly and earnestly with our full attention when they came up, wouldn't be a problem. Because we like to take all these minor little things, or at least I do. I like to take all these tiny little problems, let them pile up into one massive mountain of a problem in my head. And then I just like to run away from it and hide and find things that make me feel good. Welcome to our character defects, as 12-step programs would call it. So this seems a little thing, but is of far-reaching importance. It leads to strength, success, and peace. 3 qualities and states of being that we'd all like to embody, I'm sure. Whatever that looks like. Now the closing statement, the closing line here. Live according to principle and not according to passion. Don't let your passions run you. Live by principle and belief. Simple. Emotional binges are not reliable. They are not logical. They are not stable. Consistency is born from living according to principle. Now, if you're sitting there going, well, that sounds boring, we're probably talking to you. Be honest with yourself. This is probably things you got to apply. There's a lot of principles. There's the principles in this one are beautiful and definitely should be heeded and applied by all that are willing to consider and contemplate it. So, but that is the end of the reading for today. Incredible reading, filled with wisdom on this one, and simple. So the simplicity of James Allen's writing sometimes just irks me because I want it to be complicated so I can justify why I'm not doing it. When it's just simply put in plain instruction, frustrates me sometimes because I can't deny it. I like to pick things apart. I like to find fault with as much as I can to excuse my own behaviors. So when it's put just straightforward, that which ought to be done now should be done now. I got to listen to it. So thank y'all for joining me again tonight. It's always a pleasure, and I will be looking forward to tomorrow. So until next time, thank you.